Kartik month has begun. What's the significance of a Kartik month? What's one service that we do every day during Kartik month? Ah, yeah. We honor Lord Damodar. What's special about Damodar month? Here's a more difficult question. Govardhan Leela lasts for 7 days, but we have 1 day for honoring Govardhan Puja. And Damodar Leela lasts 1 day, and we celebrate it the whole month. So what's special about the Damodar Leela that we worship it for a whole month? I don't know. The answer is, many answers, but one prominent answer is Krishna is showing how he's controlled by the love of his devotee. And who's that devotee who controls Krishna with love? His mother. Yeah, Yashoda. He's the independent, all-powerful Supreme Lord. Yet he cries when he sees this little stick in his mother's hand. He runs, and she catches him. Kalyavana couldn't catch him, but Mother Yashoda could catch him. Because he's controlled by the love of his devotees. And Mother Yashoda's love is very special. So during this visit, my thought was in the evening time to discuss some of Krishna's, each evening, one of Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. And then my thought was, let's see how it goes. My thought is in the morning, for me to get a chance to prepare for the Vrindavan Yatra, to speak in the mornings of topics we will be covering during the Vrindavan Yatra. That's my thought. Let's see how it goes. Because I just spoke about this, Balaram kills Pralambasura with the Chinese devotees, I thought I would begin here. It's Krishna's pastime, but very similar to the pastime where Krishna has Dhenuka killed by Balaram, and we'll hear about that maybe tomorrow evening. The second demon of the 2 demons killed by Balaram in Vrindavan is Pralambasura. Garga Samhita gives a very interesting description of how all the asuras who were assistants of Kamsa became assistants of Kamsa, how they became subordinated to Kamsa. Essentially, its description is Kamsa was touring around, challenging kings, defeating them so badly, the only one left was the king, and then he gave them a choice. Either you serve me or I'll kill you. So those we know that are still around, they decided to serve him. And he gathered, so they were very powerful, but he was very powerful. He was more powerful than all of them. So that's a large beginning section of Garga Samhita description. And then there's a very interesting description about the role of Pralambasura in assisting a promise that Lord Ramachandra gave, that forest-dwelling rishis could become gopis or lovers of Krishna. And the description goes like this. Those kings had become members of the Pulinda race. Pulinda means kind of forest-dwelling aborigines. Pulinda. And this is Narada narrating to king of Mithila. His name is Bahulashva. The Narada explains the king in the region of the Vindhya hills was touring, and he was attacked by a group of Pulindas, and they were ravaging his wealth. So the king began a battle, and it lasted with the Pulindas, and it lasted a long time. And after some time, the Pulindas sent a messenger to Kamsa, because Kamsa was the king, even as far south as the Vindhya hills. And receiving the message from the messenger that the Pulindas were requesting his help, he selected Pralamba to go on his behalf. Very angry, the powerful king of Vindhya Desh took 2 Akshauhini divisions of soldiers and confronted all the Pulindas. To the Yadu king Kamsa, the Pulindas sent a letter begging for aid. Kamsa sent a powerful demon named Pralamba. Here's a description. He was 16 miles tall. That's like as tall as an airplane flying in the sky. More. Dark as a cloud, decorated with helmet and earrings, and garlanded with a serpent. With chains around his ankles, a club in his hand, a tongue moving to and fro, and a horribly ugly form, he looked like death personified. When he walked, he flattened hills and made the trees fall. Staring at Pralamba, who was drunk with the idea of a fight and who made the earth shake, the king, this is now the Pulindas getting help from Kamsa, because the king had sent 2 Akshauhini divisions of soldiers. And that's a big, long list of how many this and that, from elephants, chariots, infantry. It's a big array. Many. The king and his army fled the battlefield as an elephant flees when it sees a lion. Then Pralamba took the Pulindas to Mathura, the men and the women. The Pulindas and their families all became Kamsa's servants. They lived at Kamagiri, the place outside of Mathura, because they're Pulinda people, so they need a village, kind of rural setting. Kamagiri. By Lord Ramachandra's blessing, many Pulinda women took birth as their splendidly beautiful daughters. They were glorious and worshipable. Here's a as a goddess of fortune herself. Simply by seeing Lord Krishna, they were overcome with passionate love for him. They embraced the dust that had touched his feet. They thought of him day and night. During the rasa dance, they attained the association of Lord Krishna, the perfect Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ruler of Goloka. The great good fortune of these Pralinda girls is that they attained the dust of Sri Krishna's lotus feet, dust that even the great demigods cannot attain. A person, this is Narada, a person who does not desire the post of Brahma, the post of Indra, a great royal kingdom, the kingdom of Patala Loka, mystic powers, or even freedom from the world of birth and death, but desires only the dust of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's feet, is a true devotee of the Lord. Aloof from material possessions and free from past karma, the sages and saintly devotees who love the dust of Lord Krishna's feet say that there's no real happiness in any other place. So that's just a little introduction to who Pralamba is and an interesting role that he had to play in the Pralinda tribal girls becoming participants in the rasa dance. So this chapter begins, as many of the chapters do, when it's Krishna and the cowherd boys. There's a long narrative about what they did together. Vrindavan is a very beautiful place. It's filled with birds, animals, and flowers. Throughout the forest, there are many waterfalls, sounding very pleasant, and crystal clear lakes dotted with colorful, blooming lotus flowers. The spray from the waterfalls makes the air fresh, clean, and cool. The streams and lakes make the grass grow lusciously green. The cows are very happy. There's one little cow down there on the left, because there's so much fresh grass for them to eat. The air is filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the songs of birds. The peacocks are crowing and dancing happily among the flowers. The deer wander peacefully through the forest scenery. That's the sights. And then the sounds. The croaking of the frogs adds to the sound of the forest, making it even more pleasant. So it's a scene of entry. It's like every other day. They enter and they go deeper and deeper and deeper into the forest. First is the senses and what the sense is perceiving, and then there's their interaction. Krishna and his older brother Balaram wander in this beautiful forest along with their cowherd boyfriends and cows. They decorate themselves with leaves, peacock feathers, and garlands of flowers. The boys sing, dance, and wrestle. There are some wrestlers in the lower left, some dancers in the middle, musical instruments. Krishna dances and plays his flute. Some of the boys sing, while others clap or bugle on buffalo horns. They praise Krishna, saying, "Krishna, you dance so nicely." Walking arm in arm, bowing to each other, and having great fun, they march deeper into the delightful forest. Now comes the play. As the day goes on, they continue to play. Sometimes they play blind man's bluff, running in all directions and trying to tag each other. You ever played that? You know what it is? Yes. Yeah, they spin him around about 10 times till they start to stumble around. And then the people in their vicinity hide. And without looking, you're supposed to use your hands and find where the people are. So some are climbing a tree, some are running away, some this, some that. Sometimes they play hide and seek. They climb up the trees, run over the hills. There's one on the right side running over a hill. And there's another one on the left, hiding behind rocks. Down the lower right, he's hiding behind a bush. So hide and seek. Sometimes the boys pretend to be a king with his servants. Krishna and Balarama enjoy playing these games with their friends each day in the wonderful forest of Vrindavan. Of course, Krishna generally gets to become the king. And there are different devotees fanning him and decorations and so forth. They love to imitate the forest deer. That's that young cowherd boy on the right. Behind him is a deer with his antlers. And the many kinds of birds. The one on the left, he's getting ready to take flight, like a bird that starts to fly. They would sometimes jump around like frogs, sometimes play various jokes, sometimes ride in swings, and sometimes imitate monarchs. They also have fun swinging from the vines underneath a gorgeous canopy of tree branches. You get the picture. They're just having a party. Like children will play and play. They can play all day, no problem. While the other boys were dancing, O king, Krishna and Balarama would sometimes accompany them with song and instrumental music, and sometimes the two lords would praise the boys, saying, "Very good, very good." In this way, Krishna and Balaram played all sorts of well-known games as they wandered among the rivers, hills, valleys, bushes, trees, and lakes of Vrindavan. So on either side, two wrestlers. Another boy is riding on Krishna's back, like Krishna's a horse, supposed to carry him. Another devotee is just laughing, another cowherd boy is just laughing at the fun they're having. Very beautiful B.G. Sharma painting indicating the intimacy that Krishna has with these cowherd boys. And all the while there's the forest animals, and sometimes Krishna just simply interacts with the forest animals. This pastime takes place in the summer, but the Bhagavatam says even in summer, at least when Krishna was present, it was just like spring. Now summer in Vrindavan isn't just like spring, it's really roasting hot. But very nice when Krishna was present. Sometimes to take a break, Krishna sits under a large tree, plays upon the flute. Some other cowherd boys play some other musical instruments, or just listen and become enchanted by the sound of Krishna's flute. Sometimes the cowherd boys would play with bilva or kumbha fruit, and sometimes with handfuls of amalaki fruits. The first two, they're larger, and the amalaki fruits are fit in the palm of your hand, very small. At other times, they would play the games of trying to touch one another or trying to identify someone while one is blindfolded, we mentioned. And they would imitate animals and birds. So there's two boys crouched, indicating like frogs ready to jump. or ready, a bird's ready to take flight. In the back, on the left, is the blindfolded cowherd boy. And that game in the front right, to some of you that grew up in India, you familiar with that game? No? I've been in audiences where, oh yeah, we used to do that. So, two boys face each other, put their hands on each other's shoulder, and a third boy reaches up, holds onto their arms, there's like branches, and he swings. And they, sometimes carry him from place to place. Okay, now comes Pralamba. One day, as they played, a great demon named Pralambasura sneaked into the forest, disguised as a friend. He hid behind a tree, watching the boys, thinking of a plan to kidnap Krishna and Balaram. In Garga Samhita, another text, Garga Samhita was written by Jiva Goswami, and it's narrated by two disciples of Narada Muni to everybody in Vrindavan, Krishna, Radharani, Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, Balaram, everybody. When Krishna, not Balaram, when Krishna goes back to Vrindavan after killing Dantavakra, he spends 2 months, and during those 2 months, this is when this was narrated for the pleasure of the Brijvasis, to reminisce the good old days, the pastime of Krishna. These two Brahmins narrate Krishna's pastime beginning to end. So when they narrate this pastime, they describe Kamsa was in big anxiety because every demon he sent to try to kill Krishna was killed. So Pralamba happened to come upon Kamsa when he was in one of those states of great sadness and asked, "My Lord, what's the cause?" And he explained, "Don't you know? Everyone I've sent has been killed." He said, "Send me." And Kamsa made some kind of comment saying, "You're like a moth and he's like fire. You're just ready to fly into the fire." He felt insulted. "Try me. Give me one day. As you wish." So in that sense, sent by Kamsa. And the mission was to bring Krishna and Balaram to Kamsa. Not to kill them, but to bring them to Kamsa. And Kamsa could do with them whatever he likes. Pralamba's plan was to take both brothers to Kamsa. He disguised himself as Bhadra, a cowherd boy who had remained at home with duties to perform. When in Gopal Champu, Krishna sees this cowherd boy and he immediately knows, that's not Bhadra. He looked like Bhadra, but it's not Bhadra. It's a demon. But he knew enough to what Bhadra looked like, and he knew enough that Bhadra wasn't going to be there that day, so he made himself looking just like Bhadra. From that 16-mile tall times. Now the banyan tree that's there today isn't as big as the banyan tree that was there during Krishna's time. According to the texts, the banyan tree had branches that expanded 8 miles. And thus the forest was named after that tree, the Bandira tree. Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knew what Pralamba was thinking, and so he began to make a plan to kill him. On the left, that's the cowherd boys with his back to us, That's Pralamba. I mean, he's dressed the same as the one that you see here. So it's the same Pralamba. Krishna saw him, immediately he knew what's up. Since the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, who has appeared in the Sharha dynasty, sees everything, he understood who the demon was. Still, the Lord pretended to accept the demon as a friend, while at the same time seriously considering how to kill him. So there's cowherd boys with Krishna down in the bottom, and that single person in the back there, that's you know who. Pralamba, disguised as Bhadra, one of Krishna's friends, planning how he would kill him. So Krishna's got a better plan how he's going to kill Bhadra, or Pralamba. So he does it in a very clever way. Krishna called his friends together for a new game. Let's divide up into 2 even teams and fight against each other in pairs. Of course, they would often do that anyways. And so 2 groups. The cowherd boys divided into 2 groups, and the 2 lords became the leaders of the 2 groups. On the left, that's Balaram and his group, and on the right is Krishna and his group. Just young boys, 5, 6 years old. This is before Govardhan Leela, 5, 6 years old. They played the childhood game known as Hari Na Kridanam, in which each boy paired off with an opponent, and all the boys would simultaneously attack their respective rivals. So it's not everybody watched while 2 boys wrestled, they simultaneously wrestled. While Balaram challenged one of the boys to fight, Krishna welcomed Pralambasura. Of course, they're the ones that ended up being combatants, Pralambasura and Balaram. Krishna pretended the demon was a friend by including him in the game. When they played, some of the boys took care of the cows. So this means he's at least 5 years old, somewhere between 5 and 7, because the Govardhan Leela was when he was 7. So think of somebody that's 7, between 5 and 7. You're older than that, right? Yeah, I thought so. Where's the girl? Your daughter. How old? What's your age? 17. What's your age? She doesn't know. 6. So this is about Krishna's age when this pastime took place. So the cows are being looked after, but the boys are playing. Half of the boys, along with Pralambasura, took the side of Krishna. So Pralambasura is on Krishna's side. The others took the side of Balaram. Then the fight began. Notice in the sky there's demigods watching. They know who he is too. The boys who had lost the fight had to carry the winners on their shoulders. Krishna, by his sweet will, lost his fight to Sri Ram. Pralambasura lost his fight to Balaram, and Bhadrasena lost to Rishabha. So there's the victors and the losers. Losers had to carry the winners. The boys played various games, including carriers and passengers. In these games, the winner would climb up on the backs of the losers, who would have to carry them. And there's an artist painting of this banyan tree called Bandira, and it's mentioned specifically. Its branches expanded for 8 miles. So those who won are being carried. There's a painting depicting, one's in color, one's black and white. They look pretty much the same, except Krishna has an effulgence around his head over on the drawing. Krishna carried Sridham. Krishna is in the lower left, or the far left. That's Krishna carrying Sridham. Bhadrasena carried Brishab, and Pralamba, on the far right, carried Balaram, the son of Rohini. According to the rules of the game, Krishna had to carry Sridham. Brishab carried Bhadrasena. Pralamba, who was pretending to be a cowherd boy, had to carry Balaram on his shoulders. Well, that sounds like a lot of great fortune, carrying Balaram on your shoulders. Pralambasura wanted to kidnap Balaram without any trouble from Krishna. With Balaram on his shoulders, he ran away from where everyone else was playing. It's said, several things are said. One of those things, because there are different renderings of this pastime. Pralamba, initially his plan was to kidnap them both, but after being in Krishna's presence, he very quickly developed some fear. So he was happy that it was Balaram, and he started running. Now, according to Garga Samhita, he started running towards Mathura, because his plan was to take Balaram before Kamsa, let Kamsa do with him what he wanted. But he was afraid of Krishna. Balaram, being all-powerful, he was enjoying the ride. Began to make himself heavier and heavier. Part of the play. Pralambasura began to get weaker and could not keep his real form hidden. Balaram wondered, how strange that this coward boy is changing. Notice the changing position. The demon now appeared in his original, horrible form. He was as high as the sky. Now 16 miles is really high as the sky. And had fiery eyes and sharp teeth. Suddenly Balaram realized this was not a friend, but a demon who wanted to kill him. Now it's a little description. Like Krishna, Balaram is omniscient. He doesn't become omniscient. He's omniscient at all times. However, both Balaram and Krishna, by the agency of Yogamaya, they sometimes have their divinity even concealed from themselves. And when that happens, then they feel like different feelings besides the divine, the Supreme Lord kind of mentality. And this is one of those examples. He became surprised, a little bewildered. Wait a minute. This isn't a cowherd boy. This is a demon. Now, how did he not know? Because he's omniscient. He had to know. And so the idea is there are different potencies under. We're used to using the word Yogamaya potency in ISKCON. Some of our acharyas, they like the word Lila Shakti. Lila Shakti. Essentially the same. And that Lila Shakti has all kinds of subpotencies, not just a few. All kinds of subpotencies. And the Lila Shakti subpotencies, they do things for a purpose. And the purpose is to enhance the primary relationship with Krishna. And Balaram has relationship with Krishna in all the 5 rasas. But he's at the stage of being bewildered. And then the little light goes on. There's 2 other times that are explicitly like that. One was when Krishna was in the mouth of Balarama. He was in his mouth. His big beak. The paintings show Krishna's head over here, Krishna's feet over there, and he didn't swallow him, but he's in his beak. And when Balaram saw this, and the cowherd boys saw this, they fainted. Now, Balaram's omniscient. There are circumstances where his omniscience shines forth, like in the Kaliya serpent. When he heard that Krishna is in the grip of the coils of the Kaliya serpent, Balaram just laughed. Mother Yasoda and Nanda, they didn't laugh. They were in big anxiety. What, our Krishna? Because of parental affection. But Balaram is omniscient, so he just smiled. Krishna's having fun. So sometimes he's acting like the omniscient, and sometimes he's acting like one who is not omniscient, but bewildered by circumstances of life. Another example of that was the 1 year that Krishna had manifested as calves and cowherd boys. And for that 1 year, even Balaram didn't recognize what was going on. And then towards the end of the year, he saw things, and then, the curtain of Yogamaya parted, and 2 + 2 = 4. But he wasn't seeing that before. He said, this is quite amazing. These cowherd boys, these are forms of Krishna. They're not cowherd boys. But it took him a whole chapter, a whole year to understand. But once he understand that the demon, Pralamba, wanted to kill him, he's ready. So here's some very small paintings. I'll read. Lord Balarama carries the plow, so the gigantic body of the demon as he moves swiftly in the sky. He wasn't just walking, he's now in the sky. With blazing eyes, fiery hair, terrible teeth, reaching toward his scowling brow, and an amazing effulgence generated by his armlets, crown, and earrings. The Lord seemed to become a little frightened. That's Yogamaya potency. It's nourishing the primary relationship by astonishment or one of the other secondary rasas. It's for pleasure. And the Lord enjoys that pleasure. Balaram enjoys that pleasure. The cowherd boys enjoy that pleasure. Mother Yasoda, and everyone enjoys that pleasure because secondary rasas enhance the primary rasa. Sanatana Goswami makes reference to Vishnu Purana, where it says, Krishna called out to Balaram, "What is this mentality of a mere man who you are exhibiting, O soul of all, even though your true nature is more confidential than all other secret things?" Then Balaram remembered and realized everything about what was happening. So Vishnu Purana indicates it was a prompt from Krishna to recognize his divinity and stop the enjoyment activity because it was time to kill a demon. Remembering the actual situation, the fearless Balaram understood that the demon was trying to kidnap him, and he took him away from his companions. The Lord then became furious and struck the demon's head with his hard fist, just as Indra, the king of the demigods, strikes a mountain with his thunderbolt weapon. So that painting on the left has a lot of very detailed painting. And it shows on the right side there's Krishna and the cowherd boys, although there's some indication that Putana had gone a long distance, like a long distance, because from where they are in Bandiravan, something like some number of miles. But here on the bottom right painting, It's just Krishna, and Krishna's right there where he's flying in the sky. Now, Krishna picks up his right hand, he holds the back of his head with his left hand, and smashes him. Here he's holding on to his necklace, but with his right hand smashes him in the head. Here's another, smashes him in the head. And there's on the far right, Krishna calling out, "Let him have it." With his powerful fist, Balarama hit the head of the demon just as the thunderbolt strikes the top of a mountain. It finished instantly. Blood came pouring from his mouth. Thus, smashed by Balaram's fist, Pralamba's head immediately cracked open. The demon vomited blood from his mouth and lost all consciousness. And then, with great noise, he fell lifeless on the ground like a mountain devastated by Indra. Notice what's going on in the background. In the background to the right, there's some cows. In the background to the left, there's some cowherd boys calling out, "Let him have it, let him have it." The cowherd boys, look how small they are by his feet. The cowherd boys were most astonished to see how the powerful Balaram had killed the demon Pralamba. And they exclaimed, "Excellent, excellent." Like they're used to it. This happens every day. Some demon comes. They're just waiting for what's the next excitement, next installment of the demon killing program. A great effulgence left the demon and merged into Lord Balaram. Now that's just there in one of the versions. It's not in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now that merged is, there's a nice verse, Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 7, which is a list of incarnations. And there's one verse, it's a long verse, it has the names of who were killed, which demons were killed by Krishna. And included in that list, some are killed by Arjuna and others, Krishna's devotees. Those killed by Krishna or Krishna's devotees achieve liberation. But it doesn't indicate Sayuja. It's a little not so clear what kind of liberation. There's a general description that this, because he's killed by Krishna. So, anyway, it's not all Sayuja. After being struck by the fist of Balaram, Pralamba fell lifeless to the ground, making a loud crash. Blood poured from his mouth. Hearing the loud noise, all the boys ran quickly to see what had happened. Arriving on the scene, the boys were amazed at the ghastly sight, while Krishna began praising his brother Balaram. So in part, it's to soothe their shock. Because watching somebody get shot or something, yuck. So he's changing the mood from shock to jubilation. Everyone began to congratulate Balaram. Overwhelmed with affection for him, they began to hug him with great fondness, as the demigods in the heavens, see them up there, joyfully showered flowers on Balaram. Now, in these paintings, it shows commonly like a handful. But we should bear in mind it's not a handful, it's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. Then, Krishna and Balaram, along with their cowherd friends and cows, made their way back to their homes after a long and exciting day in Vrindavan. Now this is standard. Standard is every morning, around 11 o'clock, a demon would show up. And we only hear the prominent ones, but there's every day some demon would show up. Krishna would kill the demon. Time for lunch. And in the evening, another demon would come. And after the demon would come, Krishna would kill him. Time to go back home. The Acharyas explain it was like that because if the demon hadn't come at 11 o'clock, they wouldn't even have stopped for lunch. They were so absorbed in their playing and saying they wouldn't have gone back home. And sometimes when they were even smaller, before taking care of the calves, Mother Yasoda and Rohini couldn't stop Krishna from playing at all. And he was too clever and find different reasons and say things. So it was a practical arrangement for that particular activity of the day. In this one painting, it kind of shows the whole Leela. On the center right, that's the bandira tree, and then the boys on two sides. In the bottom right, the boys are wrestling. And on the upper left, Pralamba is with big horns there. He's carrying Balarama away. And at the bottom left, Balarama is letting him have it with his right fist. And Pralamba falls to the ground, smashed. The sinful Pralamba, having been killed, the demigods felt extremely happy, and they showered flower garlands upon Lord Balaram and praised the excellence of his deeds. So I mentioned some of the points from Gopal Garga Samhita. And that was the Pulinda women and so forth. But the flow of the events are quite similar. They're just some very modest variations. Another is Ananda Vrindavan Champu, Kavi Karnapur. And another is Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Yes, but they're in these three main literatures along with the Bhagavatam, the whole pastime is narrated. Now comes the concluding part. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I'm sure you know, most of you know at least, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in Krishna Samhita that there's a significance in Krishna's killing of demons in Vrindavan specific to sadhakas. That's us. Because in the path of sadhana bhakti, there's obstacles, and Krishna's killing of these various demons, each one representing different obstacles on the path of a sadhaka. So in this particular case, Pralamba represents three things: lusty inclinations, desire for personal gain, and honor. Now, can you read what it says on the upper left? Lusty, wealth, and honor. What's it? Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. So that's Pralamba. He represents all three. And of course you recognize that nice painting on the far right. The path upwards and the path downwards, and he's part of the path downwards. And these lower inclinations are risks for the devotee, the sadhaka. And those who are like Pralambas, they have a strong desire for personal gain and honor. So here's a cartoon showing on the right, somebody's helping this fellow get to a big seat, And then after he has the fellow help him get to the big seat, he kicks him down the stairs. So that's material life, or that's the Pralambasuras of this world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur indicates that Duryodhana is such a person. He's a nice example of Pralamba type mentality. Because he was the one behind, although it was Karna who was also interested in getting back at Draupadi, and it was Dushasana who did the disrobing bad act, but behind them both was Duryodhana. Finally, in Garga Samhita, there's a description of who Pralamba was in his previous life. Interestingly, he was a Vishnu Bhakta. And so he didn't just attain Sayuja, he attained the spiritual realm. But the description goes like this. Kuvera, the Yaksha king, was fond of worshipping Lord Shiva. And so for the worship of Lord Shiva, he had very special gardens where he was really attached to those special garlands because he wanted them for worship of Lord Shiva. And he found that some of the flowers were stolen. And so he made a heavy curse. And the heavy curse was that any demigod or human who takes any of these flowers will become a demon. So not knowing that curse, along comes a Gandharva named Vijaya. Young fellow, young man, and his father was a Gandharva. And he was going here and there on a pilgrimage for some days. And when he passed by this garden that had all these nice flowers, he picked some of the flowers because he wanted to offer them to Krishna. And unfortunately, he didn't know about the curse. And so, because of the curse, he immediately became a demon. That was a problem. So in a demon body, immediately became a demon. He went before Kuvera, pleaded his case, and asked for a reprieve from that terrible curse. And Kuvera said, it can't be taken away, but don't lament. Then he gave a benediction. At the end of Dwapara Yuga, in Bandiravan forest, by the Jamuna shores, you will attain liberation by Lord Balaram's hand. Of this there is no doubt. So he's a Vishnu Bhakta, was, and had this curse, so he was covered, and he behaved like a demon. Pralamba certainly behaved like a demon. In this way, Gandharva's son got liberation, became a demon, and then by Kuvera's grace attained liberation. So that's the end of the Pralamba story. Now, yes. You want to say something? Go ahead. Speak loud, though, so I can hear you.
Did Yashoda Mata know about Lord Krishna killing demons every day?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Was she worried about it?
Of course. Moms are always worried about their boys. You've noticed that, right? And it's natural. We don't expect moms to not worry about their boys. And the boys kind of shrug their shoulders and carry on. But that's what moms do. But the good news is for Mother Jasoda, she was regularly reassured by Nanda, her good husband, that at the name-giving ceremony for Krishna, Gargamuni, the priest that did the name-giving, he gave this prophecy that our son will have powers like Narayan, and he will, by the result of those powers, he'll protect all the Brijbasis. So he didn't say he was Narayan. They didn't say he wasn't Narayan. He said he'll have powers like Narayan. So she was confident. But still, mothers are mothers. She's going to worry anyways. Krishna may be at risk, something. Okay, any other comments or questions? Yeah.
Kubera already knew and it is already...
If Kohir already what?
Kubera already knew that.
Knew what?
Knew that in Dwapara Yuga, he is going to get away from his curse, Pralambasura. Like thousands of years prior, he know that.
Well, no, what's the premise? He knew thousands of years prior.
That Dwapara Yuga will come, and in that there will be a forest, and in that forest there will be a Bandira. What is it? Bandravana, and in that forest, certain time Krishna will be there. Supreme Personality will come in the form of a human being, and this demon will get a salvation at that time. So if it is all cyclic, then what is the significance of we doing so changes or trying to do any change? But we know that the end result will be always cyclic and predestined and already decided.
Well, you got a few things mixed up. Krishna's pastimes are cyclical, and that's firm. But it's not that everything is already decided, even Krishna's pastimes. There's variegatedness within Krishna's pastimes. Each time Krishna appears, there's variegatedness. So, one aspect of your question is, if before Krishna appeared, he knew about Krishna is going to appear and do this and that, did he remain omniscient about Krishna even when Krishna appeared? Or did he become forgetful and bewildered?
My question was, how Kubera knew that in future?
He has powers. How does anybody know anything? Chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita. From me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Right? So if Krishna wants to reveal something, Krishna can reveal something. If Krishna wants to cover that something he revealed, he'll cover that something. And they'll forget. We're dependent. Which is, to worldly people that sounds terrible. And to devotional people that sounds very nice. And it's just reality. We're very dependent. Absolutely dependent. Anything for our hostess? Where is she?
She's in the basement.
Basement. Well, ask her if she has a question. Maybe she's attending remotely. Mom? Anyone else? Anything online? Okay, then we're done. Oh, you have something.
You mentioned that the pastime of Pralambasura has significance in devotees' life because of trying to address those three anarthas. So I'm trying to understand how this pastime, when we hear it, and how do we learn so that those three anarthas are addressed?
There she is. She's hiding behind the doorway here. Were you able to hear the class downstairs remotely?
Yes, Maharaj.
Half of it.
I was live stream. I was watching.
Okay. So we'll come back to your question. Do you have any comments or questions or anything? No. Okay. So, my understanding isn't so sophisticated. It's quite simple. And it goes like this. Krishna invests this pastime, or each of his pastimes, with certain potencies. And those potencies are specific to in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation, to a particular weakness or anartha that conditioned souls may have or commonly have when practicing sadhana. So just by hearing, it diminishes that weakness for that particular anartha within our heart as sadhakas.
So we hear this pastime again and again if we feel that we have those inclinations.
Well, you can hear it once and just hear it with your lights on, or hear it again and again and your lights kind of dim. So it depends on how what's the qualitative hearing, but there's potency within the pastime to eliminate, to diminish, or eliminate that anartha. Krishna kills the anartha, here's the demon. And it's a realization. There's a verse in the third canto of the Bhagavatam, and I was searching for the verse and I haven't found it again, where Krishna appears according to the likeness of the devotee for him, or the Lord takes different forms and shapes and particulars to accommodate the desire of the devotee. So this is one of those examples. It's a particular realization of Bhaktivinoda that the previous acharyas did not mention, but it's a realization of Bhaktivinoda. It's an aspect of Krishna's pastimes that, let's just say, at least prior acharyas didn't write it, and to Bhaktivinoda Thakur it's revealed, and he's just expressing it. There's a potency within these pastimes to help us overcome our own anarthas. It's part of Krishna's reason for performing the pastime, to help us overcome our shortcomings. So hearing it again and again is great. Yes?
Thank you, Maharaj. Sequential to Prabhuji's question.
What? No, just pick up a little bit. Utsaha.
Yeah, it's similar to Prabhuji's question. So what's the significance of Balaram killing and Krishna killing the demons? It said that Balaram represents Guru and Guru has to remove those anarthas. Does it mean that Guru is like expecting or waiting for the disciple to take some of the course of actions that Guru removes those anarthas? Or
there are different ways of different ways of understanding and different explanations that can be offered. One of the ways is that there is special effort required in these two particular cases. Maybe tomorrow we'll speak of Dhanuka, because he's the other one killed by Balaram. But it takes special effort on the part of the devotee, because the pastime of Krishna killing demons is Krishna's killing demons. But these are more pernicious or more outstanding or more, have a great power upon sadhakas, and therefore Balaram gets involved as the original guru. So it's like guru giving instructions and the disciple following instructions, so there's potency in that.
Maharaj, I have one more question. So, in the story, Maharaj, you mentioned after Pralambasura was killed, he attained salvation. So, when he was Asura, he did commit two types of karmas, prarabdha and sanchita. sanchita karma and prarabdha karma. As a demon he did. So both has been taken out when he is killed and he attains
Of course.
salvation. Okay.
Krishna has all powers, no problem.
Thank
And
you.
Balaram has the same powers, no problem. No problem. Okay. Done for the evening. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai.